The Alters was not a game that I had on my radar for 2025. This is solely because survival games are not really my cup of tea. However, this title branches away from this genre by wrapping itself in a deep story, and that piqued my interest. Developers 11-Bit Studios are no rookies when it comes to survival games, given that their catalogue includes Frostpunk and Frostpunk 2, but did they succeed to make The Alters something more than just a survival game and entertain me as someone who wouldn't usually spend time in this area of gaming? What's up? How's it going, people? Welcome to Casual Gamer Reviews. If you enjoy this content, please leave a like and subscribe, but if you don't like it, then please leave a thumbs down and let me know how I can be better for you. It took me 23 hours to complete my first playthrough of The Alters, reviewed on Xbox Series X. The Alters does have a deep story, as I mentioned in the intro, but at its core, it is still a survival game. Playing as last man standing Jan, the gameplay is segmented into days and hours in which you must allocate your time between gathering various resources, crafting items, fixing the base, and so on. In each of the 3 acts, you have a set number of days to complete the main story task before you get a game over screen. Throughout the days themselves, you only have a set number of hours to do your activities. You awake at 7 AM and are recommended to go to bed by 11 PM, meaning you have 14 in-game hours to play with. You can of course stay awake past 11 PM, but the penalty is waking up later the next day, so you effectively always have the same time frame to operate in. The kind of activities you'll be undergoing fall into various traditional survival systems. There are a handful of resources you need for crafting tools, making food, and pretty much everything. There are external resources you must obtain from outside your base on the planet's surface, which are metals, organics, minerals, and rupidium. These can be mined from shallow deposits, which have a very limited pool, or in deep deposits, which require you setting up an outpost. In order to do this, you must first scan the area and find the deepest point in order to place your mining equipment. You must then connect them back to your base to provide the power, and at that point you are good to go. This is essential for progressing in this game, and so you naturally fall into a loop where in each act you arrive in a new area of the planet and you must spend the first few days surveying the surface and setting up your resource outposts. The catch is that the radiation levels are too strong in the evenings, meaning you have an even smaller window to do your outside mining, which applies that classic survival game pressure. Inside the base you have everything else. The important system here is the build mode, where you can add additional modules onto your base for a set cost of resources. You can build a greenhouse to grow food, a lab to research new inventions, a workshop to craft tools, or even an infirmary to tend to you when you fall sick. There are a plethora of different modules to explore, and each can offer you some benefit in your mission. There are certain constants that you must uphold day to day to add on to the overarching quest of trying to progress the main mission. For example, you must eat every day, you must keep the radiation filters topped up, and you must keep repair kits on hand to fix the base. If any one of these constants are not upheld, you will die and get a game over screen. This sounds like a lot to keep on top of for one man, right? Well, that's where I will introduce the Alters' fundamental mechanic, the Alters themselves. Through an appropriately named module, the Womb, you can use the planet's rare resource rupidium to make alternate versions of yourself. In an experiment called branching, you can create alters that took a slightly different life path to the builder yarn you play as. This allows you to gain a team of up to 6 people that specialize in a certain field. The 6 I had for my run were the miner, the botanist, the refiner, the doctor, the technician, and the scientist. From what I understand, the technician and scientist are required as they contribute to the story, but the others are completely up to player choice, which promotes further playthroughs. These alters contribute massively to your survival effort and help you manage your time much more efficiently, but they do come with their own problems. First, you now have to feed 7 people rather than 1, meaning a lot more food needs to be farmed. There is also the capacity for more people to become injured, they argue and fall out, and they demand things from you. Each alter has their own mental state that you must monitor and keep on top of. If an alter is sad or angry, they will lower their work hours and may even stage a rebellion if their morale hits the floor. There is a delicate balancing act at play here which provides a different spin to survival games I've become used to in the past. You could be 5 days away from burning alive due to the radiated sun, and an alter could down tools because they think you should be having fancier meals. Or an alter may stop working because they are moody you you haven't built them a bed yet. The priorities seem absurd yet completely reasonable at the same time, and I adored the game for this equilibrium. The title does throw some extra spanners in the works with pressure encounters, like a magnetic storm which breaks the base faster, shifting the focus for that day, or the shrinking of unradiated hours on the surface before you must return to the safety of the base. These small elements helped keep the pacing of the game from falling into a monotonous cycle and succeeded to make you feel like you never had enough time to do everything. I understand that what I've been saying does sound like it could be difficult, but playing on the normal difficulty I didn't have any real problems. I hit the game over screen twice, but I found each time easily recoverable just by loading a save a couple of days back. I never felt like I truly had got myself into an irreversible fail state. The Alters runs in Unreal Engine 5, and visually I must admit I have mixed thoughts. I love the interior of the base and the high-tech futuristic flourishes you see in there, not to mention the change in perspective when you're running from room to room or in the build mode. Where the game stumbles is with the planet design. The landscapes are desolate wastelands, and from a story perspective it makes sense, but sadly it just gives a boring visual experience. The character designs are perfectly serviceable though, given that they are all variations of one man. Each have a distinctive feature that makes him easily identifiable, although nothing that was too tongue-in-cheek. Given that they are all profession-based, I was expecting this to be the case, so I was pleasantly surprised that it wasn't. I particularly liked the Doctor, who had kind eyes that you would hope from someone who heals, but also a weathered face showing the scars of previous losses. In terms of performance, it was pretty good for the most part, but I did get the occasional bug when navigating the base, especially when going up the elevators. This would result in stuttering and clipping animations, but not enough to subtract from the overall experience. The OST for the Alters is composed by Piotr Musial, and for the most part it is futuristic synths that accompany the story beats or serve as background to your activities. There is nothing stand out here, but he did compose an original vocalized song which is sung by the voice actor of Jan, Alex Jordan. Although this isn't the best song in the world, it was pretty cool to have something unique. Speaking of Alex Jordan, he not only voices the main Jan, but all the other ones too. You can definitely hear the similarities, but there is still enough difference that it immerses you into the idea that these are individual people. The range that Alex manages to achieve here truly is a work of art. He has a large portfolio of video game credits, and most will probably know him as the voice of Mr. Hands from Cyberpunk, or perhaps as one of the Rooks from Dragon Age the Veilguard. For me, his work here is better than both of those performances, and I think he should get his flowers for that. Now, I've been hinting at this game having a really strong narrative, and I think it's time to explain. Working for a large corporation, Jan sets off on an off-world mission to find a rare resource called Rapidium, which is supposed to help advance science. However, Jan wakes up alone on the planet's surface while the rest of his crew have been killed on landing. This particular planet is far too close to its sun, and if you are exposed to the sunrise, you will die. This means you must always stay on the dark side. Jan, in his moving base, will embark on his survival mission to escape the planet. You constantly have calls with Earth, and there are many moral conundrums that arise. The first is the creation of your alters, these alternate beings of yourself. They are real people and come with real problems. Most of them aren't happy to be awoken through your scientific experiment and start edging towards existential crisis, which would be a perfectly understandable reaction in reality. The second is the looming shadow of the corporation who, just like in the real world, may have self-interests. This conflict is the one I had the most internal back and forth on, as the alternative route always seemed like a bad call, and I really liked the game didn't have an obvious right and wrong. Lastly is the game's two main decisions, one at the end of Act 2 and one at the end of Act 3. These caught me completely off guard, as holy shit, they are intense moral dilemmas. Think the trolley problem times 1,000, and I aim that particularly at the choice at the end of Act 2. This decision made me leave my game and sit in silence and ponder for an evening, mulling over what I wanted to do. I haven't done that for a game since Disco Elysium, and I mean that as the highest of praises. It certainly wasn't something that I expected from a survival game. Because of these big choices in the final two acts, the ending of the game can be markedly different between players. I think officially there are 6 different endings, but there are branches that can differ with these 6 depending on the alters you choose and other choices you make. I was satisfied with the ending I got, got, but I am definitely planning another playthrough that is completely different to my first run with different alters and different decisions. Due to there constantly being a ticking clock, there isn't much time for side activities, but that doesn't mean there aren't any at all. Pretty much all of these involve the other alters. First is the socializing aspect. You can play beer pong with your crew, which unlocks the simple yet fun minigame to enjoy. Each alter has a difficulty depending on how good they are, so it even offers a scale of challenge. The other is watching movies. Movies can be found in Planet Surface Exploration, and each of them is a legitimate short film that are a few minutes in length, performed by comedy duo Chris and Jack. Most of these are a fun watch and, to be honest, helps take the edge of this very serious game ever so slightly. Each alter has their own side story if you choose to follow it. Just like the main story, these can get pretty emotionally intense, and I love that. Upon completion of some of them, you can even learn a lesson which unlocks future dialogue options for certain story beats. Given that The Alters is a smaller title, I must say I was impressed with the breadth of content available here. While I don't usually enjoy survival games, there is a charm to the way The Alters takes a rigid survival system and adds fluidity to it. You still have your main structure of resource collection, but there are enough narrative ties and pressure encounters to make it feel different. On top of this, the story and character building are way over and above anything I would expect from a game of this genre, and I cannot praise the intense moral reflection it pushes enough. Outside of the excellent voice acting, the audio and visuals are nothing to write home about, but all in all, The Alters comes together as a delightfully unexpected stellar package. The Alters gets a casual gamer score of 8.5 out of 10. Check out the channel for other reviews, spoilercasts, and discussions. My most recent uploads are reviews for Lies of P Overture and Mario Kart World, so go and see what I thought of them. If you enjoyed this content, please consider leaving a like and subscribe, and if you didn't, I will try to be better next time. Let me know if you want to play The Alters in the comments below, and for everything else casual gamer, keep it here. Peace and love.